Welcome back, everyone. Day one, afternoon. What we enjoyed this morning. We loved this morning. It was really nice. We love doing these online retreats. So thank you, everybody who comes and makes it possible. Like we say, we do these by donation to make them accessible to everybody. And we know times are hard, so anybody who can't afford to make donations at this time, we just ask that in exchange for our time and this service, we ask for people who can't afford to pay any donation towards Freedom Thinking, Jenny and myself's work, that they just do something kind for somebody, pay it forward with an act of kindness. I'm sure we can all afford to do that. So that's what we ask in exchange. Just another quick housekeeping thing. We have a newsletter. If anybody's remotely interested in our very sporadic newsletters, where we kind of put something out, kind of remotely entertaining to us, and then tell people about any things that we're putting on, any retreats or any information that we think people may be interested in. You can join our newsletter at our website, which is freedomthinking.co.uk.
Or you can just email us at info@freedomthinking.co.uk and I can add you.
Yeah, and like we say, anybody watching this on because we put these recordings out online, we float them on YouTube for people to come across. If you wish to make a donation, if what we talk, what we share on this has an impact, and you wish to make a donation, you can make a donation at PayPal, which is info@freedomthinking.co.uk. That's our PayPal, info@freedomthinking.co.uk. Or if you want, that's also our email address. So if you prefer to do it by bank, you can contact us via email and we can sort something out. And likewise, we do one-to-ones, we do intensives with people. I know a couple of people on this call have done intensives with us. We love them, and we feel like they're a really good way of getting change quickly. So we also offer that service and one-to-ones and all that kind of stuff. But for now, we're doing the online retreat, the via donation online retreat, November 2020, for the love of life, day one afternoon. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. And welcome, America. Zoe wins. Zoe absolutely wins. She's been up since 3 o'clock this morning. Where are you at, Zoe?
Phoenix.
Phoenix, did you say?
Sedona, Arizona.
Sedona, Arizona.
Yes.
You win. You win. I've been up since 4 with Rusty, but not 3. Right. We'll make a start now we've recorded all that. So this is questions, observations, and reflections. This is where you lot get to speak up, ask any questions, or if anything's rung true and somebody's had insight, please share it. We love the feedback, positive and negative. And if there's any questions, how does this relate to this? How does it relate to that? Then please just, no, there's no silly question.
Deb, you got your hand up.
Morning, Deb.
Good morning. What a gorgeous baby. Oh my God. Beautiful.
She's gorgeous.
Thank you so much. It's been beautiful wisdom this morning. And these last couple of years, I've just been seeing deeper and deeper the truth in this. And as a practitioner myself, I work in the faith-based community. So there's over 100 scriptures on mind and belief in the Bible. And it's so powerful. You know, I would read those before the understanding of the principles, and they would ring true because I've been a seeker my whole life. But after learning the principles, they landed in such a different space and such a depth of that it's not a distant God, it's an indwelling God. And through the power of the Holy Spirit, we have that right inside of us. And what a magnificent gift that for me, it wasn't about religion, it was about relationship. It was coming into that relationship of who I was, who God was, and seeing that there was no separation there, but I was not God, but I had God within me. And how beautiful the humility, and I heard you say that word so many times, the humility of I'm not large and in charge here, and that it's in that surrender and in that letting go and in that trusting was where I saw this immense power that didn't have to come from me, but came through me, which was such a gift. Over the past 3 years, I have faced enormous battles with my health, which is why the oxygen right now, and faced my mortality so many times, but my resiliency and the power of God and the grace of God just kept bringing me back up. And I was able to be more creative, more productive than I have ever been, considering that this body wasn't working the way I wanted it to, but that deep knowing that I was not my body, that there was something so beyond me, that there, even when the body was diagnosed with multiple things that, in all honesty, were scary to hear, who I was, untouched. The level of well-being inside of me was not dependent on the diagnosis, the circumstance, the treatments, the medications, that there was such a deeper well within me. But I'm curious, and a lot of practitioners in both science of mind and New Age thought, in Christian circles, in the principles, talk about we create our reality. And I've seen it a little differently over the years. We don't create our circumstances. In this season, we also had over 14 people die. I didn't create that, but how I experience that comes through thought in the moment, and the beautiful part was learning not to be afraid of my experience, learning to grieve that it was a normal, natural, beautiful part of life, that I didn't have to shut down and put a happy face sticker over it and have a spiritual answer to why I felt the way I did. Just let the tears come when they came, because it was like holy liquid love just pouring through, so I would love to hear a little bit around that, because I think there's a lot of misconceptions, because you could get the most beautiful guru, teacher, wise one. Jesus went to the cross and suffered immensely. Sid Banks got cancer. Wayne Dyer had leukemia. These are people who lived, breathed these principles and still had circumstances that they didn't want. So I would love for you to talk a little bit about that, circumstance versus experience.
Cool, I love that. And Debs, thanks so much for being on this, love. And then I liked it when you said you don't need to look for a spiritual answer.
Yeah.
To me, the spiritual answer is this very moment. It is the illness. It is the rain. It is just whatever's going on. People go in search of their spiritual self as though it's something to find that is misplaced or lost. And it's never misplaced or lost. The power of thought is the spiritual medium through which we create experience. It's the spiritual medium through which we invent. It's the spiritual medium through which we manifest a reality that looks fundamentally so true and real. And consciousness, what is consciousness? It's the spiritual medium through which we create reality. It is the spiritual medium through which we experience. It's the spiritual medium through which all thought flows. It's like mind. Well, what's mind? Well, it's the spiritual force of life itself. It's the intelligence of all things. It's like the spiritual's never missing. The thing that's actually searching for the spiritual, who thinks that it's separate from the spiritual, is the spiritual itself. So I really like that, Deb. It's so beautiful. That was one of the nicest things I found, because I always wanted to believe in religion. I always had hope that, you know, and throughout my life, it faded away, and no, religion's a load of nonsense. I love it when people have their faiths. You don't need to be religious to understand that there is a fundamental force that creates and is all things at all times. You know, and it's like when you see it from that point of view, it's like, oh well, everything you ever hope for exists. Everything you could ever want does exist. The potential exists. And you said what? And you wanted to speak about, Debs. Sorry, I've just picked up on something you said there, and it's just what I wanted.
Thought creates our reality versus thought creates our experience, not our circumstances.
Yeah.
You know, when Sid said life is a contact sport, well, I certainly wouldn't be creating those hits that we took.
Yeah.
You know, so that's where I wanna, and I've seen something, you know, so different in this, that we don't create our circumstances. We don't create what the people around us are doing. You know, that's where I got so tripped up for so long, thinking that I could control things by what I was thinking rather than my experience. Like, I have to say, in these 3 years, the level of peace and joy I have experienced in the middle of catastrophic circumstances. You know, do I still worry at times? Do I still grieve at times? Do I still, you know, want to be out of this situation at times? Yes. But I would say the overall, and people are kind of amazed that I could still have joy and peace in the middle of these circumstances that no one would want right now. But I can see the magnificent blessings in it too.
Beautiful, love. Beautiful. I don't know. I mean, I'm just about to say something quite controversial. I don't mean to cause anybody any disrespect or upset anybody. I don't know if we don't choose our experiences. I don't know that for a fact. I don't know if we don't choose our circumstance. Now, I'm not talking about me, Dave, consciously sitting here about, you know, manifesting my own demise that eventually will come in this physical form. But I don't know. I mean, if you speak to some people, they would say that, no, you actually choose your experiences before you actually are incarnated. Now, I don't have firsthand experience of that kind of remembrance. I can't say I firsthand, so I could only say that some people would say that we do choose our circumstance, or much of our circumstance, like key points of circumstance throughout our life, in order to learn. Now, as you say, Deb, we have a choice within that. You know, how do I deal with this circumstance? You know, you are an individual who I think is inspirational to anybody. You know, you face grave illness. I'm assuming, because you're on oxygen, some kind of serious illness. It can't just be some like a cold. Yet, like you say, you can remain buoyant and happy, and people look at you and go, how can you be buoyant and happy? You see, the way that I see this is, you do have these 3 fundamental non-changing principles that apply to everybody on earth. In fact, they apply to everything, not just human beings. This isn't a human psychology. This is a fundamental existence thing. And this fundamental existence thing, these 3 principles, you put them all together and it equals learning. Now, everybody on earth learns. Lucia has learned so much in the last 7 months coming up. We've watched her learn. She's learned to control her hands. She's learned to recognize us. She's found things that she likes. She's found things that she doesn't like. She's learning and she remembers and she goes along in her life. Now, she couldn't possibly learn without thought. So we all incarnate into these human bodies for a finite amount of time. And what we do from the word go is we use these principles to create and learn, 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 create and learn, create and learn, create and learn. Everybody's always in a, we're all sat here now, we're all hoping that we may learn something new, you know, because learning is fascinating to us. Look at us human beings, we're so fascinated by learning stuff that we're interested in. Now, everybody's interested in something different. Not everybody's interested in these kind of conversations. We're all interested in different things. And I often say to, like, kids often get, we did some work in South Africa with 30 tweens, and there was, this woman came up to us and said, did you know 95% of these kids between the age of 8 and 13 are on psychiatric medicine? Why? Well, they're not concentrating at school, and the parents really want them to concentrate and do well at school. And I said to this lady, but are the kids interested in what they're learning about? Because I know if I'm not interested in what I'm learning about, I don't really give it much attention. And everybody's interested in something different. That's not ADHD. That's just, I'm just not interested in learning spots at finance. I'm not interested in finance. So I don't give it, I've given it zero attention in my life. Nature, I'm fascinated by. The mind, consciousness, I'm fascinated by. So it gets an awful lot of my bandwidth because I'm fascinated by it. I'm intrigued and I learn through it. And I learn about it. I'm interested. I take things in and I weigh it up and I process things. And so to me, it's like, no, I don't know whether it's true that we don't create fundamentally these experiences that we have throughout our lives, whether they're laid down in a blueprint beforehand. I do not know. I'm not saying that's true. I'm not saying it's false. I'm open. I'm open to that possibility. But what I do notice is that we learn. And it seems to me the meaning of life is like, is a learning. Is to learn. And if you notice, I mean, I challenge Darwin a fair bit with my thinking on evolution. I don't see it as random chance. I see it as a very well orchestrated phenomena that is intelligently executed. You know, but how could anything learn to evolve if it, first of all, didn't come up against a hardship, recognize as a hardship, and then figure out how to overcome it? Now, this can take place in the spiritual evolution or within the physical evolution. But even if it's physical evolution of an organism, first of all, there needs to be the recognition of the hardship and a means by which to overcome it, which has to come from an intelligence. Now, intelligence has to be thought. So thought to me isn't just thinking. Thought, when I remember having my experience, my second experience, and getting a sense of thought, when people would ask me, what is it? I'd go, I don't know, but it's like this. That's all I could do. It's like this. It's nothing tangible. It makes no sense to the mind. If you think you know what thought is, you're in a belief. It's not that. Thought is a force that is, what's the word I was using this week, which it's nonsensical, really. It makes no sense. It doesn't make any sense. But yeah, circumstance, you know, we get to experience the circumstances of life, and we get to choose how we deal with them. And people would say, but Dave, there is no choice, there is no free will, there is only the will of God. But I like to challenge that point by saying, but you've created a duality that doesn't exist at that point. You've separated yourself from God consciousness, which you cannot. So therefore you have to be everybody, like the wave on the ocean is the entire ocean creating that wave. The entire force of the universe exists within every single living thing. And what appears to be non-living, but everything is living, because everything is a vibration of consciousness. So everything is consciousness, everything is thought. So it's like at that level, at that point, it's like there can't be any mistakes. There can't be any mistakes. There only has to be perfection, but there's stuff in this lifetime that I certainly come up against that I really don't like. And I don't see the perfection in it until it seems to be afterwards. I get to reflect upon it and go, well, one, I made it through it and I'm all right. I can deal with anything that this life throws at me.
100%.
And you know, this is it, love. You know, Deb, this is why people like you are so powerful, because you can sit there and you can speak from that space and people can recognize that, and it gives people hope.
Yeah.
You give people hope. So it's like that hope is the beginning of an uplifting vibration or a shifting consciousness for people, a higher dimension of consciousness. Hope is far more value, high frequency value than despair. And you
100%.
bring hope to so many people.
100%. And, what I heard you say so clearly that resonated very deeply was there was purpose in this season. This wasn't random that it happened. It wasn't like I created getting all these catastrophic infections. I didn't create that. I had a body that got it. But what was so fascinating was in 4 months, four incredible infections, and the last one was COVID, that I got out of the hospital. I could barely hold a cup. And I heard, for me, the Holy Spirit, the voice of God, God consciousness, say, every bit of work you've ever done in the world needs to get out and get out now. And I started to laugh. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. And I watched teams of people come around me. And in 2 months, our middle school mental health videos went out to PBS, are being seen by 5 million people 5 times a day. I couldn't do that on my own. And I'm still sitting in quarantine. 3 Bible studies I wrote went out to prayer teams, missions teams, pastoral counselors, prisons that were principle and faith-based combined. Then 2 books I had written came out that I had been sitting on, but I didn't have to do it. It was so beautiful that for me, it was God, the energy behind life just opened up doors and allowed me to do things that I could not do for myself. And it was in that complete surrender of, I physically can't. There's no way I could even push myself. And as one who was a perpetual overachiever, I would try to push myself, but I couldn't. I was leveled. And I got to just watch the beauty of this. And right before, it was about 6 months before I got sick, I had an encounter that was so profound. I had walked out, and every morning I just sit and do quiet time with God, and I pray and reflect and meditate and listen. And this morning I walked outside, and there were some shooting stars, and I just thanked God, and I said a prayer that I'd never said before. I said, God, show me the magnitude of your majesty. And in a moment, I started to just see things in my mind's eye about the vastness of the cosmos and the perfect design that was in place. And then I heard in the quiet of my heart, and it was almost like imprinted, because I can remember it word for word. Baby girl, if you truly understood the magnitude of my majesty, you would never worry again. I hold the planets in place. I spin them at just the right speed so they don't collide. I give you gravity so you don't fly off the earth. I give you oxygen so you can breathe. I beat your heart. I digest your food. I breathe life into your body. So much goes on behind the scenes that you're not even aware of. And it was just like, holy, like, wow. But it showed me that there was something so much bigger than me. so much bigger than my circumstances, that I did not have to control it, run the show, figure it out, fix it, make sure everything was just so I'd be okay. That there was this grace that held me and held everybody else I loved, regardless of what the circumstances looked like. And that's what I needed to remember in this moment.
That's beautiful, love. That's so beautiful. Deb, that's beautiful. Thanks so much, love.
Thank you. This has really been a delight. Appreciate you and John very, very much.
No, bless you, Deb, and us you as well, love.
God bless.
You know, there is something that comes through this learning. Jen often calls this an unlearning.
Yeah.
Because what you're really starting to do is collapse all your ideas that spin your planets out of orbit.
Yeah.
You know, and you wonder why everything's going to pot, but we're so desperately trying to cling on to and make reality fit according to our belief system. You know, when I say reality, I mean circumstance of belief according to our belief system. And so we hold up our belief against the world and we go, it's not like that. It should be like this, but it's like that. It should be like this, but no. The thing we're not actually suffering what's going on in the world. What we're really suffering is our belief of how we think the world should be looking. Because if you remove that belief, you would just see what is. And what is always a neutral event. So it's like, but it seems like as you start to be challenged, and as you start to find that inner resilience, that resilience isn't really the right word, in my opinion. You know, it's like there is just the perfection of who and what we are. When we start to recognize that, faith's born. You know, and as the more we acquire faith, the more we are okay with discomfort. And the more we're okay with discomfort, naturally, the less discomfort we actually feel.
Yes.
We're not at war with the discomfort. We're not trying to fight it. We're not trying to change it. We're like, here I am. This is the circumstance right now. Here I am. And as that starts to change, our physiology starts to change. You know, we're no longer adding stress hormones, cortisol, adrenaline to the circumstance, all of which we know create illness and physically fuck the body. You know, so it's a win-win in every single possible way. And it's that saying again, I'm not religious, but that saying of Jesus, blessed in this book of Thomas, blessed is he who has been tested and found faith. Found life, my apologies. Found life, he said. Blessed is he who has been tested and found life. Find themselves.
Yeah, indeed.
Bless you, love.
Thank you so much. God bless you too.
God bless you. Wow, anybody else?
Mute. Okay. Hi.
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 Hi, Annette. Hi, Annette, friend.
This is Monica. And
Hello, Monica.
my mum's
I've met you
coming.
before.
Hi, Dave. Hi.
I've met you before. How are you doing, love?
We have met a couple of times. And
Yeah,
lovely. Send my love to Debbie. She's
Oh,
truth so well.
what a lady.
One lady. This is just a statement. I just in lunchtime I walked down through the town. I was just observing everybody, and I come back here. Why aren't there 500 people on this call, Dave?
It's just the way it is.
Why is a letter of an alphabet? But why don't people get this?
I'm a bit of a terrible marketer as well, Annette. I know that I put it on Facebook and sent out 2 newsletters. So I take a little bit of responsibility for not advertising it very well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Sometimes when people have seen it and they're a bit suspicious because it's via donation, and yeah, who knows?
I know. It's not even you guys. It's like this, you know, it's like this is the answer to so much. The answer to so much, to everything, really. And I just,
this should be a conference on the NHS.
Yeah.
Sorry to say that, but I go for appointment acupuncturist, and I think sometimes Dave and Jenny should be here on a screen instead of advertising the Mini Cooper.
The Mini Cooper's probably more fun to drive, I have to admit it.
Maybe.
Oh, bless you. No, do you know, it is perfect.
I know.
It is perfect. You know, like Debs was saying just then, it is perfect. You know, we might not like it, but it's perfect because it's exactly how it is. And without judgment, there only is what there is. And people have to be ready in it. If you're on this call, you're ready. It doesn't matter what state of being you're in. If you are on this call, you are ready. You wouldn't be looking to an esoteric conversation if it wasn't for the fact that you're ready to step out, step up. Do you know what I mean? And in all honesty, I feel like we're just at the beginning of our time. I feel like our time's coming. There's a lot of shit happening in the world right now. Now, when this shit starts to hit the fan, as it's doing, the world appears to be going mental. What I personally see is, what I believe is happening is actually a fundamental breakdown of the way things have been in order to make way for something better. Because more and more people are getting interested in this conversation globally, whether they're religious or not. More and more people are questioning everything. The questioning COVID made people question, how do I want to live? I don't want to go to work every day. I don't want to go to work. I want to work from home. I want to spend more time with kids. I need to spend more time out in nature. There's a fundamental shift in consciousness taking place within an individual. Now, there's a thing called the 100th monkey effect. Has anybody heard about it?
Yeah.
It's like the Essenes said, they knew that every single thought had effect on the consciousness of humanity. So everybody who is starting to find new ways to live and going, I don't want to do this anymore. I would like to do more of this. I want more time to do this. This is changing the very fabric, the very energy through which the world materializes itself. So it's like, just us here. There's a man called Dr. David Hawkins who had his own enlightening experience, and he came up with I don't know how accurate it is, but this is what he says. He said he came up with a chart, and he said that suffering is at the frequency of sub 200 hertz. The frequency of suffering, your anxieties, your worries, your I'm not good enough, your this, that, your depression, your whatever, is a vibration of below 200 hertz. He said, but if you get what he said at 300 hertz, you're starting to go into acceptance and all right, I'm all right. 500 hertz, you're starting to get into joy, happiness, those feelings of upliftment, and get to 700 hertz, you're in pure love. Get to 1,000 hertz, he said, that's enlightenment. And he said he came up with this thing. He said he entered into the space where Jesus entered, and he could still see where Jesus had been. And you could see, apparently everybody left a path through this space who's entered it. And he said, I got to enter that space. And he came back with this information. He said, this is the information I've come back with. Dr. David Hawkins, he's on YouTube. And he said, one person vibrating at the frequency of outside of 200 hertz into the 300 hertz, just like I'm all right, helps roughly around 250,000 people who are below 200 hertz. It helps raise their frequency. 250,000 people, he reckons. He said, if you find somebody who is in happiness, in joy, in contentment, in those uplifted feelings, he said, now you're talking over 500,000. This is just one person in that state, just one person in that frequency bandwidth. And he said, if you get somebody who is in pure love, just purely in love, for whatever reason, they're just in love, or in love with a partner, in love with a baby, they're in love with a flower, they're in love with the sea. Yeah, you're looking, he says, you're looking at that one person is helping to raise the vibration. They're doing some serious heavy lifting because they're helping to lift 750,000 people from the sub 200 frequency, helping to raise the vibration a bit. Now, you get a lot of people in the world doing this, and it's been shown time and time again with these meditations that when people meditate on crime reduces. You know, when people, we have a power of 8, group that we do healings for people. And we see miraculous things take place in these healing groups that we run. We see people come, they go, I can't imagine this working, we'll give it a go, and they'll give it a go, and they're like, I can't believe the difference. You know, when we're all healers, every single one of us is a healer. Every single one of us is divine energy. We don't know this because, in all fairness, we've not been told it. And we've not allowed that knowledge to come through ourselves because we've been too busy chasing intellectual knowledge and trying to get through the day. But when we start to quieten down and we stop chasing and we start to find that other aspect of ourself that was never lost, it was just hidden behind a cloak of thoughts, beliefs. When that starts to be allowed to start to come, by the way, you don't have to get rid of every single belief for this to come forward. It's like when that starts to come through, you start to find yourself as not what you thought you were. Not what you thought you were. And so really, I would love to see these screens filled up. I would love it, but it is what it is. But just how many people, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I don't know how many people there are behind the blank screens. But, you know, we're all doing our bit for humanity right now. And it's effortless. Jesus was asked the question, again, I'm not religious. Please don't think I'm talking religion. I'm just talking what this man said because it makes so much sense. How do you best serve God? Do you give alms? They asked the question, do you give alms? Do you give money to the church? Do you do this? Do you do that? And Jesus' response was, just do that you love. That's how you best serve yourself, and it's how you best serve humanity. Live your authentic, true, happy life. Do what you enjoy. Do what you enjoy. I enjoy doing this. I love it. I love these. I love meeting people, and I love hearing people's stories.
Dave, we're supposed to break in a couple of minutes, but I thought if we went to 10 to, and just had a quick break before Dicken came on at 3.
Yeah.
Just see if there's any more questions or comments.
Yeah, remind me not to wear this shirt tomorrow. Look at that.
Brilliant.
Anybody else? Thank you, Annette.
It's me.
Thank you, Mariella. It's Mariella, isn't it?
Monica.
Monica, my apologies.
I went to a super conference about awareness back in October. And there was a couple at the end of this. I'm just looking for their names because I jotted down. I think their names are Urtak and Lynn McDaggart. And they mention about you can heal, the power of people can heal, and they have done it on the website, and they have done for people in the war in Israel, and they pray together, they whatever intent they put, and it was amazing, the results. They saw that the war ceased.
Yes.
It was so beautiful, exactly what you said, and you just brought me back to the conference I went to, because it's so powerful what we can do. And I wonder if maybe it's only very small groups because they don't want to advertise this, because we're powerful people, we are.
Well, yeah, if I was in charge of the world, or put myself in that position, I wouldn't want people to realize how powerful they were. And I would understand also why that book of Thomas was removed from the Bible 200 years ago, because it's talking about freedom. It's talking about the power that exists within all of us.
Yeah.
I understand why things like that have been removed throughout time by kings and queens and
I think it
royalty.
was 200 years
AD.
AD, not 200 years ago.
200 years AD. Sorry, Jen.
Yeah.
Yeah. I understand why those kind of teachings were removed, but it doesn't mean that it was never true. We've always had access to it, regardless, to this point that we are magnificent beyond comprehension, that we are so powerful we cannot understand how powerful we are. We can't understand how perfect we are, how beautiful we are. And there is no exception, not a single exception in the entire universe, let alone on this screen or let alone on this planet, to this rule. We're magnificent beings, everybody is. And every single one of us is meant to be here. Every single one of us is loved unconditionally. I know that to be so true. We're absolutely loved, and there's nothing that we can't deal with. We'll never face something we can't deal with, because there's nothing we can't deal with. We can deal with everything. We're all testament to that point. But Lynn McTaggart is actually the inspiration for the healing group that we do. So yeah, we're phenomenal. We are phenomenal. It's what blows my mind is we forgot. What blows my mind is that we don't
speak too much. Instead of talking with the heart, we use this, and
Yeah.
that's when it stops.
Monica, so true.
Yes, I know.
So, you know, we confront every single challenge we come up against with our intellect. Now, this is where we quite often get unstuck. What is the intellect? Well, it's pretty much everything we've ever thought before. Everything we believe to be true, the way we think the world works. So then we face each challenge with this, but when we come up against new challenge, it's no wonder we suffer it, because we're trying to go at it with this rather than sinking back into the higher knowledge that exists at the heart of our being, that knows how to live, that created a universe, that created the body, that dreamt up the immune system, that dreamt up the eyes, all the senses, the heart, the endocrine system, the hair that grows, the fact of reproduction. You know, this is a phenomenal system we're talking about. We take all this for granted. What the hell intelligence creates this? But we are that intelligence that creates this. And it's like when we sit back into that space, we find answers and new ways of being that just come into our awareness. And information is always there. We have information for every single problem that exists, or perceived problem that exists on the planet. But the thing is, we keep going about it with this, and we, like my sister says, we're swimming in information and drowning for wisdom. No, drowning in information and dying of thirst for wisdom, or something like that. She's a clever little shit, sister. She's not on. But yeah, we're all up in our heads, and we think the thing is, it's been prized in our cultures. You know, intellects have been very much prized, those that can remember, and you know, it's what we try and train in schools. We train kids that can remember information, rather than helping kids come up with whole new ideas and new ways forward. And you know, drawing out, the word education means to draw out from within, from probably it's either Greek or Latin, obviously, but its initial meaning was to draw out from within. But we have a habit of putting into kids, you know, which creates this, which creates ego, which creates right and wrong, which creates war, which creates suffering, creates people who suffer psychologically, and ultimately that psychological illness creates physical illness. It's all frequency. Every illness has a frequency. That's why Lynn McTaggart's work works, because if you can, low frequency cannot exist where high frequency exists. High frequency always cancels out low frequency according to physics. So if you can raise the frequency, you cancel out that low frequency. Now, any illness is obviously going to be a low frequency event, because the body wants to work at optimum condition. That's why when people have these sudden uplifting experiences, quite often many of their ailments disappear. You know, we call them miraculous spontaneous healings. Well, they're miraculous because they don't make sense to our intellect, but in actual fact, they're just the way nature works. You raise the frequency of something, it will heal. That's the same for our mental suffering. Raise the frequency, it cannot exist there. Raise the frequency of our consciousness and it cannot exist there. Now, they're just words to describe. They're words to kind of describe. I don't even know what the hell they're words to describe because I don't even know what consciousness is. But it's words to describe the upliftment of our being. When we start to live a life with more, as Deb was saying, more faith, more grace, more gratitude, more acceptance, not being at war with everything, not being at war with one another or ourselves, naturally we enter into these more buoyant states and it heals our mind and it heals our body. I experienced that firsthand, the healing of the body through that.
I was just going to say, Dave, also, there's been times I feel like that's it, almost like I can see we're in the realms of belief and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think what we always come back to is there's this massive unknown. Like, why sometimes does that shift heal and why sometimes does it not? And it's like, do we know when and how we're supposed to leave this earth? Do we know that I don't know. So I just feel like it's also, we get into the realm of beliefs, which is this absolutely, I love to talk about all this kind of stuff and I've loved the group, but at the same time it's almost like we have to come back to the fact we've got no idea. There's this deeper intelligence that kind of lives life, and somehow, I don't know, it just occurred to me when you were speaking, because I think I don't know. I've had beautiful experiences of it, but why sometimes does it work and sometimes not? And like, I know there's been quite a few things happen within the spiritual and kind of nutritional communities where people seem to have really dropped so much ego and just live in these beautiful spaces, but then they still die of this illness, and it doesn't seem to make sense. But I feel like there's this, the unknown is all the invisible thought that we live out of, and the invisible stuff. And yeah, it feels like I still have to put that in the I don't know category.
It's also our perceptions of what bad is, isn't it?
Yeah, but I'm also aware of the time. I want people to have a little bit of a break before Dicken comes on.
Right, let's have a break. We'll come back. So we're back at 4 o'clock UK time.
3 o'clock, Dave.
3 o'clock, my apologies. Back at 3 o'clock UK time. So we're back in 10 minutes.
7 minutes.
All right, cool.
See you in a bit.
See you in a sec. Okay, welcome back, everyone. We now have the wonderful Dr. Dicken Bettinger come to join us. So we always try and get Dicken involved in something that we do. Dicken's been so kind to us, and he's a man who's just shown real integrity throughout our journey within the three principles, Jen and I, and he's somebody who we deeply respect and we deeply love. And because he's looked after us, we like to look after him, and we really respect his teaching, and we really respect him, more importantly, as a man. So we try and get Dicken involved as much as we can. Him and Koisi, we've had the real privilege to spend time with these people, just hanging out, going for walks, and Dicken's come and stopped with us a couple of times and been part of our family and deeply loved by our family. So whenever we have a retreat, we have an event, we always try and get Dicken on if he's got time. So yeah, no, thank you, Dicken. Thanks so much for being part of this. Jen, I know you probably want to say something.
Yeah, just thank you as always. Yeah, from the moment I met you, I remember sitting in the Pransky office and just you had a glint in your eye, and also I was so nervous. I'd heard of the Pranskys and I'd seen videos, and Rudy and I had arrived and we were going to do some filming, and I was sat there almost terrified because I was like, all these people I'd seen on video suddenly sat in front of me, and you just, I don't know, you spoke to me and suddenly everyone else disappeared and I was able to speak. And I don't know, I think you have an absolute talent and skill at knowing how to speak to any person wherever they're at, and you connect with them. And I've seen that again and again and again. Like, we've been doing events together, I think, since about 2010, 11. That was the first one.
Yeah, no, that
and then because
sounds
of
right.
COVID, we stopped our tradition of always seeing each other every year. So I think we're seeing you next year. I think you're up in
Yes, yes, I'm coming. One way or another, I'm going to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, just thank you for your friendship. You've mentored me at times when I've needed it, and your generosity of spirit. You feel like family, and yeah, we always love you to take part. We cannot wait for you to meet this little one, because I know she'll
I know. No,
Look at these hands.
I cannot wait. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Who knows what she'll be up to this summer, you know. I mean,
Well, she's not like her mum. I'm joking. Right, I'm going to shut up. Dicken, we're going to hand this over to you. You've given us a title. I'm not going to say it because I don't know where your heart's at right now. Maybe you've got something new maybe you want to explore something different. I don't know. But this is your time, mate. And we've got you down for an hour and a half. So if you want, just so you know, and then if you want to allow time for questions or anything like that, then you can figure it into your what you're saying.
I will allow as much time as I can, because I'm looking at all the folks here and I see a lot of friends. So it'd be wonderful to be able to talk with people, and I really want this to speak to what people are most interested in or curious about.
Cool. Thank you, mate.
Yeah, you're welcome. Wow. I can't tell you, I feel like it's Christmas morning for me. I've been waiting to get my eyes on little Lucia again for the past week. I've been like a kid waiting for Christmas. So it's so good to see her. Well, Jen asked me what I wanted to talk about, and you know, the only reason I'm interested in the principles is that it continues to help awaken my heart. If it didn't do that, I'd be off. If it didn't do that for my clients, if it didn't help my clients become more loving toward life, I wouldn't be interested. What's the point? You know, what's the point? I mean, they say that when people are dying and on their deathbed, nothing matters but who has loved you and who you have loved. Nothing else really matters in the grand scheme of things. Now, I know a lot of people get jaded because it seems like love is more of a curse than a blessing. But you come to find out love is never a curse. Ego is a curse. Love is never a curse. It feels good, and it's a recognition of our connection to life. I want there to be more lovers in the world. That's why I still get up in the morning with passion, is I can spread a message that can help people become better lovers. Whether I'm talking to a 5-year-old kid who's suffering, or a 95-year-old kid who just is interested in having a richer, fuller life, right? A richer, fuller life, more love and more understanding. So when it comes to the principles, I'm interested in the heart of the principles. Now, The other thing that's happened to me in this last week is I've been remembering all the great walks I've gone on with Jen and Dave up there in the Lake District. Now, we're kindred spirits, so something happens to the three of us when we're walking through nature. We fall out of our personal thinking because we just become enamored and enhanced by the fact that when we fall out of our thinking, we can't help but to feel a connection to everything around us. The trees, the bushes, the grass, the dirt, the sheep, the stone walls, each other, the sky. It's just as if you fall out of personal thought, out of your ego, you fall into a quiet and a feeling. Doesn't matter what you call the feeling, because you're not in your thinking. You're not interested in labeling what you're feeling. You're just in a nice feeling. You fall from your head metaphorically into your heart. This is what I'm interested in. This is what I'm interested in, that each of us can wake up out of thinking that weighs on us and fall into our heart. And that's where you'll discover everything you're looking for. Everything. Everything. Sid calls that place the ultimate answer. I didn't want to take his word for it. So for years, I experimented and found out if that was true. If I didn't feel close to Koisi, if I fall out of my thinking into my heart, what happens? If I see something on the news and I want to rant and rave, and I see what happens if I fall out of my thinking into this quiet space within. That's within everybody. That's always there, regardless of circumstance. It's available to anybody, anywhere. So I put it to the test for years. Is it the ultimate answer? When I fall into that space, am I lived well by life? Am I guided well by life? Am I uplifted? Am I unburdened? I want to invite people not to listen to me, but to find out for yourself, to explore. When you let go of everything, I mean everything you're thinking, feeling, belief, just for a moment, not forever, just for moments. If you let go of everything, what's still here? What's always here? Be aware of this, if you will, metaphorically, space that you're in when you fall out of all thought. It doesn't mean you don't have thoughts. You're just not paying attention to them. You're not holding on to a single one. You're just fully resting in the present. Some people call it resting in the presence of God. Some people call it resting in the now. Some people call it resting in what is. Some people call it resting in your soul. Not your conceptual mind. What's underneath, beyond, before anything we think. Do you know in almost every talk, Sid Banks gave us clues about how to become better lovers. And one of his primary clues is you have to go beyond all concepts. All. One time, I was sitting in my living room, lying back on my couch, listening to Sid talk. And he said in his talk, you have to go beyond all concepts. It's found in the quiet of your mind. You have to go from the known to the unknown, from the physical to the spiritual. And when you do, an inner light goes on, and it brings spiritual intelligence. What you're looking for is a feeling. I feel like I learned 3 things from hanging out with Sid Banks for 23 years and having him call me up and me calling him up and getting together and asking question after question after question. Most of my questions were about love. What is it? How do we get it? Why aren't we always in it? Is it really always here? Does it come and go? I mean, I was just curious. I just wanted to hear his take on that. And he would say, Dicken, don't listen to my words. Don't listen to any words. It's only in the quiet of your own being you're going to discover anything of value. What do you want to know, Dicken? You want to know more about love? That's where you'll find your answers. You want to know more about the spiritual? That's where you'll find your answers. You want to know more about how to deal with horrible stuff going on in your life, how to respond to it? That's where you'll find your answers. You won't find them in the world, and you can't think your way to it. You fall into an unknowing, the state of no thought, a presence, pure thought, pure consciousness, pure mind, a quiet, the quiet beyond the noise of your babbling thought system. That was one of his. Oh my gosh, always talking. Blah, 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 blah. No, don't do this. Oh, that's stupid. Oh, I hate this. Oh, I don't want this. I want this. One of the first things people begin to do as they deepen their understanding often is to begin to realize I'm not my blah, blah. I'm not the voice in my head that's always yammering. You know what it means to be gobsmacked? God, I love you guys. You know, I'm mostly English in my DNA, so I can relate with all this stuff now. Gobsmacked is where you just fall into a state of presence, of awe, of wonder, of, oh my God, right? A moment free of blah, blah, free of the noise of your conceptual mind that's full of judgment and opinions and ideas and limiting thoughts. Okay, let me say it a different way here. I feel like there was 3 things I learned in all these years of reading Sid, listening to Sid. Not so much his words, even though I can quote a lot of his words. It's where he pointed each of us. He says, my God, my message is so simple. Look within, go beyond the noise of your thought system. There's an always present silence and quiet within. Drop into that space, touch that space, look for that space, enter that silence, be that silence, rest in that silence. Pure thought. He wanted us to learn about the creative capacity of the mind, pure thought, before it's taken form. And we each then get a little more familiar with that space. It's very interesting. It's very interesting that most adults, when they're feeling tension, stress, or upset, do even more thinking and then identify with what they're thinking is feeling as who they are. Isn't that interesting? They go deeper into the conceptual mind, and you'll never find answers there. You will not find love or wisdom in a computer. You won't find it in the conceptual mind. You won't find it in the intellect. You won't find it in your head. It's in your heart. Drop out of your head if you want to know how to be in life or how to respond to life. And there's a silence that's underneath all that noise. And in that silence, there's peace, peace of mind. That's where we find peace of mind. In that silence, our senses come alive because they're not contaminated by ideas. Pure consciousness. That's where we discover beauty and enjoyment. Our senses come alive and we start enjoying the moment as it is. You go deeper and there's a feeling that's always there, the feeling of being. Deeper than whatever you're thinking and feeling in the moment. Deeper feeling. It's a feeling of that when any of us drop into it, we feel more connected. That's why people like to go for walks in nature. They fall out of their personal thinking. Their senses come alive. They experience beauty. They become like little kids again. Oh my God. Oh, can you believe? Oh. And then you feel what I would call an intimacy with what's around you. Feel an intimacy with the trees, with the flowers, with the birds. My God, the birds. So it says it's a different kind of love. It's not conditional. And it's not for one thing only. And not, it's like, I love this, I don't love this. It's not that love, that's conditional. It's an unconditional love. This is as you fall in love with the world. You fall into a love so that everywhere you look through the eyes of love. So I learned three things. Life is one. I'll say something more about that in a minute. We all live in the second, we all live in a world of thought from the moment we're born till we die. We never know another reality other than presented by our thinking in the moment. And third, we're all lovers already and don't know it. So we're all one. Sid always was talking about form and formless. Our physical being has form. Our thinking has form. Our feeling has form. To understand the nature of form, you have to discover what lies beyond form. So this is why Sid would say you have to go beyond everything you're thinking, all thoughts, let it all go, surrender, die, let go beyond, don't hold, relax. Every mystic throughout time in every culture and every religion talks about this step of letting go of the personal, letting go of concepts, ideas, of what you're thinking, of the thinking you do that keeps you out of the present moment. It's only in the present moment. The present moment, pure consciousness is the doorway to the divine. It's our birthright. It's already here. We're standing at the doorway at every moment. We're a thought away from stepping through that doorway. Huge part of Sid's teaching. We're all one. The mystery of life is that this field of formless energy in which we all are living, this infinite field of spiritual energy, gives birth. I'm partial to this metaphor today, gives birth to new and fresh constantly. Look around the room you're in. Everything around you didn't exist at one point, and it was birthed into existence from this field of nothingness. That's the mystery of life. That's the creative nature of life. And it's all the same energy, whether in form or formless. That's the great discovery, that there's only one. Now, each of us can get little glimpses of that. When our mind gets quiet, we feel more at one with people, with nature, with life. We get little glimpses of the experience of unity. the experience of our connection to life. You don't create connections. You get out of the thinking that makes it seem like you're not connected. And then you discover you are connected. And the feeling of that, you could say, is love. I feel an intimacy with everything. Why? Because I'm intimately connected already with everything. How far does the wave has to go to become the ocean? It's intimately one already. Ego is thinking you're just a little wave, and then you compare yourself to other waves, and you keep looking at all the other waves around you and thinking about them. And Sid Banks comes along and he says, Dicken, that's what insecurity is. You want to see something cool? Look down. Look within. You're a spiritual being, whether you know it or not. You go beyond your thinking and you discover a vast open world of silence that keeps filling up with peace and joy and love. You start living in deeper feeling. As you have insight into the principles, you let go of more and more. It's not a matter of getting more. It's not a matter of gaining insight. It's a matter of surrender, letting go, going deeper. You know what Sid would say? If you have an insight, the quickest way to kill it is hold on to the words and think that's the insight. Keep letting go of the words, surrender, keep surrendering, keep dying, go deeper, go deeper, go deeper, go deeper. He says, if you want to have the insight keep unfolding, stay with the feeling that begins to awaken in you as you fall out of concepts that create conflict and division and struggle and effort and trying. It's not a matter of trying. It's not a matter of gaining. It's not a matter of getting. It's not a matter of acquiring. Those are all functions of ego. That's when the world becomes a problem. We're all about getting. As we fall out of thought, we become all about giving. Giving up, giving over, giving in, thanksgiving, forgiving, unconditional generosity of spirit giving, giving for no reason. Sid would say, drop within, raise your level of consciousness, and literally bring more love. When you find a nice feeling, give it away. Bring more love and understanding into the world. God knows it needs it. So if we talk scientifically about this, a recent scientific study, scientists from North American Space Agency have been studying the energy in our universe, not the infinite universes, but our universe. And they came up to the conclusion that if you took everything that has form, remember form and formless? The dance of life, from out of nothing, everything shows up. 4% is created from the formless, creative, spiritual energy of life. He said, if you take everything that can be seen with instrumentation, the largest telescopes and the most powerful subatomic microscopes, and you take and measure the energy of matter, condensed energy, if you measure that, it only makes up 4% of the energy of our universe. See, the mistake we make as human beings is we think I am my blah, blah, and my feelings and even my body. That's only 4% of who we are. What's the 96%? Scientists call it dark energy. Invisible, can't be seen, can't be measured. That's what Sid called the spiritual dimension of life. That's what he realized. His enlightenment experience, he just went so far beyond the influence of his conceptual mind. He experienced the oneness of life, that all of life is energy, spiritual energy, whether in form or formless. The one God, the only God, the all that there is energy of life. Don't get hung up on the words. They're just made up. No one can describe and explain the 96%, but we can experience it. We can touch it. Every client I've had has moments where they fall out of their thinking, they become more present. What happens then? The thinking that was weighing heavily on them dissolves, goes back into formless, isn't being created, and they become more present, and they say hi, or they smile, or they enjoy something, or they laugh, or a kindness comes out of their mouth. You see, it's built into us already. You already have it. You already are a lover. We just cover it over when we get caught up in and hold on to our ideas about life. The second thing I learned from Sid Banks, so we're all one. And when we fall out of thought, we experience oneness, which we experience as feelings of peace, joy, love, enjoyment, beauty, connection, intimacy. I fall out of my thinking. I feel, the more I fall out of my thinking, the closer I feel to my wife, to my kids, to my grandkids, to my friends. There's always more to discover. You never come to the end of love. It's not something that can be explained, but you can experience it deeper and deeper. No one can say, I couldn't possibly be more loving, more creative. No one. That's arrogance. When Sid had his enlightenment experience, he didn't see it as arriving or getting something. He saw that he was shedding, and that the more he shed, he said, it was the beginning of my learning. It wasn't the end of anything. It was the beginning of his learning about this new world and our connection to it. Deepening, deepening, deeper, deeper. More love, more compassion, more often. Okay, the second thing, we live in the world of thought. A lot of people are talking about this that teach the principles. A lot of people, they've had insight into that's helped them, so that's what they teach. There's only thought. We live in the world of thought. You can't have any experience that's not created from the power of thought. If the power of thought, this divine spiritual power, this formless power, creates our mental activity, and without mental activity, you don't have a moment experience, a moment of experience. You wouldn't, you'd be dead. We're living in a created reality moment to moment. And yet, when I travel the world and ask people, what are you feeling? You get a wide range of feeling because whatever you think you'll feel. So we're going to have all kinds of feelings. I do every day. But the interesting question is not what are you feeling? It's where do you think that feeling is coming from? Now it gets interesting. People start blaming the world for what they're feeling. I'm stressed because of all the work I have to do. I'm sad because of what happened. I'm angry because of what you said to me. I feel hurt because of what's going on. I'm happy because the sun came out. I feel good because you came into the room. And we innocently believe, and it's not scientific, that something in the world has the power to create what we're feeling. Some people say it's my biology, as if biology has the power to create feelings. Some people say it's my genetics, it's my biochemistry, it's my past, it's my personality. Other ways of attributing the creation of life to something in the world to form. And form can't create. The formless creates form. It's not the other way around. It only works one way. The formless it would call the inside of life. When it takes form, that's the outside. So this is an inside-out paradigm. It's a new paradigm that's been discovered and is being talked about more and more and being realized by more and more people. It only works one way. Whatever you're experiencing is being created from within you, not from what's around you. You're only living in the world of your thinking from the moment you're born until you die. You have a sad thought, you feel sad. You have a stressful thought created by this power of thought, you'll feel stressed. You have a loving thought, you'll experience love. It's how we work. It's how everybody works. It's always been true, whether we've realized it or not. What I love about learning that one is the more I realize my feelings are coming from my own thinking, the less I blame people for my feelings. It changed my parenting. I couldn't blame my feelings on my kids for what they were doing. My wife was greatly relieved that I couldn't blame her for what I was feeling. She was thrilled. She was saying, keep doing that principle stuff. You're lightening up, you're becoming more present, and you're not blaming as much when you have a low mood. As a matter of fact, you don't do much with it, but just sort of wait it out, and it passes pretty quickly if you don't think into it. She says, I like what you're learning. The third thing is that every human being is a lover already, and that we can wake up out of our thinking, fall into the present, relax in presence, be open in presence, be receptive in presence, and then we'll naturally start to fill up with deeper feelings of well-being, which is just a beginning to experience the oneness, the unity of life. When we fall out of concepts, will always create a sense of me and you and difference and separate. That's why politics are such a mess these days. People get wedded to their beliefs, and then they'll fight and argue and get crazy and blame. All the political ads here is one candidate blames the other candidate for every social ill in the world. Sid says every problem in the world is when people get wedded to the world of content, form, ideas, and beliefs, become very opinionated, very righteous. I'm right. What I think is right. What I believe is right. What you think and believe is wrong. And I'll even go to war with you. I'll argue, I'll fight. It inevitably leads to conflict and war. That's ego. What's the cure? One cure. We wake up out of all that thinking and discover this whole other beautiful dimension that's full of love and what else? Wisdom. And it's wisdom that allows us to cooperate and collaborate and listen and be open and say, I'm not interested in our differences. I'm interested in looking toward the source of creation to find new and fresh answers to any problem, poverty, injustice, racism, sexism. The cure is found in wisdom. It's never going to be found in already formed thought content. And all of us have built into us the capacity. So thank God we feel tension, stress, and upset. It's just saying we've gotten too caught up in our thinking and we've lost our always present connection to love and wisdom, to our heart. So every time I feel tension and stress, it's just saying, Dicken, drop from your head into your heart. Open back up. Don't be closed-minded. All right, open back up. The characteristic of ego is fear, fight and flight, anger. You let go of everything you're thinking. Always feeling goes from being contracted to radiant and expanding, which is love. Every feeling is love in disguise. There are no mistakes. Okay. 45 minutes. That's a lot of talking. I hope you weren't listening to my words. You were just relaxing into being yourself, into the heart of life, into the heart of the principles. That's the point. That's the point. That's the point. That's the point. Anytime during the day, no matter what's happening, we can go to our drop-in center. It's open 24/7. There are no bouncers at the door. All are welcome. Sid says we're a thought away from being present. I've seen no exception to that. Okay. Love to talk to you. What are you hearing? Anything stand out for you? Any questions?
That was wonderful. Thank you, mate.
Yeah.
Any questions, love? Any questions for Dicken?
You're right. She's just looking for something to hold on to and wave around. And
It's a shoe. She's got a lot of toys, but she generally likes a shoe or
yeah,
keys or a spoon.
yeah. They're easily graspable.
We've got the wonderful Debbie.
Debbie, hi, Debbie.
Hey, Dicken, how are you, honey?
Good to see you.
You too. That was so lovely on so many levels. And the one thing you said that stood out, and I see it so much, is that when we feel tension, worry, upset, that it's just that red flag that we've walked away, or we've turned away, not even walked away. We just turned away from what's always there.
Yeah.
I had this
Yeah.
experience last week. It was so profound. And you've been kind of riding this journey with me since this
Mm.
started. And I got another, at the moment, felt like very overwhelming news of something else they found in my body. And immediately felt this contraction
Yeah.
and fear. And it felt like trauma, like, oh boy, here we go again, not another thing. And I am not going to that kind of doctor. I cannot face that. And within literally 30 seconds,
Mm, mm.
all of a sudden, like everything opened up, and I'm like, wait, maybe this is the solution, not another problem. Maybe this is something that'll lead to more well-being. And from 30 seconds before of saying, I will never go to that kind of doctor, to
Yeah.
I'm searching for who would be the best one. And it was like, wow, isn't this fascinating?
Yeah.
Then follow up with my other doctor, who jokingly said, you need to sell your soul to try to get into those kind of doctors, because it could take you over a year. And I'm like, really?
Wow.
And anyway, I'm like, oh, I have friends at the med school. Let me see if they could help. They call up. She texts me laughing that you can't get until July of 2023. She goes, but let me see what I can do. And she got me in for Monday. And I went from being so overwhelmed and so fearful to almost excited now that maybe this is the answer. At the same time, about a week ago, I'm just thinking, I have so many really wonderful, caring health professionals who are helping me, but nobody's coordinating anything. Like, I'm the coordinator and it's not working. I need people to communicate with each other. And out of the blue, one of my doctors resigned, and they put me with another doctor who was 32 years old. And I sent him a little bit of my history, and he gets on. He's like, you're not going to be happy with me, what I'm going to say right now. And I said, what? And he said, I'm so excited and how complicated you are. I love complex cases. I love looking at all the data and trying to figure out what other people missed. And I'm like, oh my God, how brilliant. So I went
Perfect.
again, so overwhelmed that I can't manage it. I wasn't supposed to, that wasn't my job. And I see that time and time and time again, that when I just sink into what is my job, to love, to stay connected to wisdom, to just shine through what God puts through me, it's so much simpler than trying to run the entire solar system, and making sure everything's exactly how it should be. And that feeling of overwhelm now is a gift. It's a gift because it's showing me the direction I'm facing and how simple it is. It didn't require, why the trauma happened, what I need to see in it, what my limiting beliefs are. No, it was just a different direction. And that's always available, always available. So, Dicken, thank you. And the one thing I have to say is, our feelings don't come from external, except for grandchildren. They're like, they're the
Exceptions to the rule.
Especially when they're under 5. Yeah, then it's the exception to the rule. But I appreciate, I value everything you share so much.
Thanks. That's a beautiful story about how, as we get wedded to thought, we drop into low levels of consciousness. And as we wake up out of that thinking, we're built to come back up again. So you dropped into a very low level of consciousness, looking at the world through your fearful thinking, your upset thinking, and then you realized it and you fell open. As your head cleared, you came up to see it through different eyes. See, we're never looking at the world. We're looking at the world through the filter of the thinking we're involved in. And as our thinking becomes purer, we see things more in an open, creative, hopeful way, optimistic, knowing that the new and fresh can come from within to give us new life. That's a beautiful story, Debbie. Thank you.
Thank you, Dicken.
Yeah.
I just, if you don't mind, just a little bit following up from what Debs is saying there. It's like life is always going to bring us something that will give us the opportunity to find humility. And I know Jen and I have had a lot of thinking about the medical establishments a lot. And we've always done our best to avoid them. So our birth was hopefully going to be, it's going to be a home birth with a water pool. I don't think she's on now, but we're going to have Jen's sister, the doula, and we're going to give birth at home. And long story short, 14 days overdue, find out Lucia was breech. So 14 days after her due date, find out she's breech. One semi-emergency cesarean later, after we tried to find somebody who would be with us giving birth, we get told, we tried to turn Lucia. She refused to turn because Jen wanted a natural birth. But one semi-emergency cesarean 2 days later, Lucia was born, and the beautiful midwife came up to us and holding the placenta and said, "You don't know how lucky you've been." She said, "Explain when you get out." We went out, and later on she came up to us and said the placenta had something called vasoperivia. She said, had your waters broken, the vasoperivia is where all the blood vessels, arteries and veins are on the outside of the placenta, not safely inside. So that when waters break, they tear and they rupture and you get mass hemorrhaging, the baby starves of oxygen. If they're not stillborn, they born with brain damage. And the hospital had only seen one vasoprevia baby survive, and that was because she was a midwife working on the ward at the time of her waters breaking. They got her into surgery straight away.
Yeah.
And it was just one of the most deeply humbling things. It's like life will bring you opportunities to become humble. Find faith, go. It will bring you those opportunities, and when you fight them, your life tends to get quite messy and things go terribly wrong. But when you go with it, and thankfully we had no other choice but to go with it, miracles happen.
Yeah.
So Lucia refused to turn, and I'm absolutely convinced she refused to turn because she knew she was born. She wouldn't have made it. So I've loved listening to you, Deb, because the way you hold your conversation around your illnesses is beautiful. So I won't take up any more time.
So beautiful, though, is what you shared. My son had the same thing. He's now 30 years old. He's gorgeous. He's 6 foot tall, but he was born 2.5 months premature because of that. And a miracle that he survived. And, developmentally, he had some issues when he was little, but he's so gorgeous, successful, wonderful, just a miracle like your baby. And yeah, wondrous. Thank you.
Thank you, Deb.
Who was it that said you can either see life as there are no miracles, or you can see life as everything is a miracle?
It was Einstein.
Einstein.
It's kind of in my mantra for the last 20 years.
Yeah.
You know, just give me eyes to see those miracles. They're everywhere. Everywhere.
Well, the fact that anything at all exists is a miracle. That out of nothing, everything arose, including us, including our babies and grandbabies and trees and plants and mountains and you name it. Out of nothing. Subatomic physicists call matter temporary condensations of energy. Sid would say, you think you're living in a physical world, but it's really a spiritual world. And it doesn't work on physical laws, it works on spiritual laws.
Amazing. And
Yeah.
do you notice though too, like, I don't know about you, but when I start talking about miracles, it immediately draws me into presence. Like you cannot talk about a miracle, think about a miracle without being present.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you can feel it in your body and in your mind that everything just quiets down.
Your story illustrated when you were wedded to thoughts, if you had stayed wedded to those thoughts, ideas, and opinions and believed them to be true, you could have finished your life being depressed and miserable for the rest of your life. I've seen it happen for people.
Yeah.
And with understanding, this becomes a gift. Thank God we feel tension, stress, or upset. It's just letting us know we've lost sight of the spiritual, of the wisdom world. And we're a thought away from being open and receptive to receiving its gifts. And as soon as you opened, you started getting new and fresh thinking.
So much so. So much. Yeah. Really beautiful how we keep seeing it over and over again with different costumes on, different circumstances. But I stand in awe of it. It's beautiful. So beautiful. Yeah. Thank you.
Oh. Anyone else? Zoe.
Good morning, Dicken.
Hi.
Nice to see you. Another US.
Yeah, good to see you too.
I got up at dark o'clock and it's been the most beautiful, beautiful journey with Jen and Dave and everybody else.
Yeah.
It almost felt like a magic carpet ride, okay? That's kind of metaphorical, but the opening of my heart around the whole spiritual conversation of formless
Yeah.
and how it interacts with form. And
Yeah.
loved your definition of gobsmacked. That awe moment of like pure bliss is almost like when the ego drops away and there's nothing else to be seen. It's like the feeling is so palpable, right? And the other thing you said that really resonated was pure consciousness is the doorway to the divine.
Yeah.
And we experience that and interact with others. They feel it. They feel it. They don't know necessarily what it is, but it's such a beautiful gift to carry throughout the day. And Not only that, but to find that space within private moments too
Yeah.
for myself.
I've always liked calling that space of pure consciousness free of the contamination of our conceptual mind, pure thought, pure consciousness as home. So we feel lost. Oh God, I don't know what to do. I don't know what's happening. I don't know what, oh man. And then we fall out of all of that thinking of confusion, uncertainty, doubt, worry, upset. And there's presence, quiet, loving presence. And it feels more comfortable. That's why I like the metaphor of home. My concept of home is my favorite corner of the couch where I like to sit quietly and just relax. And it's just so comfortable and beautiful. I can really let my hair down, metaphorically. Being ourself is not being the 96%, it's being the 100%. Then our body is spiritual. A lot of people say, I am not my body, I'm not my thoughts. Well, that's a one step, but it's not the realization of unity, of truth, of oneness. Our true self is not the inner self, it's the 100%. We're all of it. That's the cosmic joke. Sid would say, if you can just see, get a glimpse of the connection between the spiritual and the psychological, it'll transform your life. It's all one. Then whatever you're experiencing and feeling is not a problem to be solved or fixed. That every moment you're perfect as you are, but for your thinking that says you're not. You can be in a low mood, and if you're caught in thought, you'll suffer. If you're believing your low mood thinking, you'll suffer terribly. If you're not caught in thought and you're in a low mood, you're like a baby. You're having an experience, but you're not giving it a negative meaning. It's not a problem. It's not wrong. It's not nothing to be fixed. And then you ride through your low moods more gracefully. Because you're always going to have them. And either you think into them and make meaning. I should, I shouldn't, this is horrible, this is bad, I need to, I can't, I don't like this. I had a client recently and she was completely dissatisfied. And the more I talked to her about it, the more I realized that she was constantly saying, I don't like how I'm feeling, I shouldn't feel this way. So anything that she heard about the principles, she said, yeah, but I still feel bad and I don't like feeling this way. There's something wrong with me. I got to fix it. Those are just ideas and thoughts. Babies don't have those ideas and thoughts when they feel uncomfortable. The Tibetan Buddhists say when you drop out of your thinking, you drop into, often they'll call it original mind or they'll call it newborn consciousness. You become like a baby again. In order to enter the kingdom, you must become like a young child again, free of concepts. Then you enter this space of deep and beautiful feelings. You can be at peace with the fact you're in a low mood. You can be grateful for the fact that your low mood is inviting you to greater openness, to be open to wisdom, right? You can literally experience the absence of judgment about anything that arises in your experience, you become more accepting of what is, rather than saying it shouldn't be this way.
So I'm hearing you speaking to the allness and not the isness of this world. Does that make sense? The oneness, the allness, the
I'm
100%.
trying to say the 4% is the isness.
Right.
The allness is the 100%. So when I talk about allness, I'm including the isness.
Thank you. Thank you. Right?
If it's allness, oneness, I mean, it's as concepts. I hear a lot of people say, oh, I'm one with life. And they're concepts, they're beautiful spiritual concepts, fall out of all concepts, and you just feel an ordinary connection to whatever's around you.
Mhm.
You just feel closer, just ordinary. You get a little glimpse of truth. You get just a little glimpse of truth. And it'll do a lot for you. It does a lot for any of us when Sid would say, if you can take one little step beyond your precious thought system and touch that space, something beautiful must come into your being. And then he says, don't take my word for it, find out. You explore it, because I can't do it for you. You experiment. You see what you find when you let go of everything. You let go completely. It's what people call ego death. That's another way of talking about what enlightenment is ego death. I asked Sid one time, I said, you went into this field of light and all sense of form disappeared. You were just in the oneness of life energy. You dissolved into light itself. I said, did you have a near-death experience? And he said, no, I went all the way through that light to the other side. I died. It wasn't near death. I had a complete death experience. And he says, I discovered the beauty in oneness, the beauty of oneness, and there's nothing to be afraid of in letting go, surrendering, or dying. You don't lose anything of value. You lose your tension, stress, upset, your ego, your sense of separation. You won't lose anything of value. When Sid died, he had absolutely no fear of dying because he had already died, and it was the most beautiful thing in the whole world. The experience of pure thought, pure consciousness, pure mind, free of all the concepts of self. But when he had his enlightenment experience, two things. He thought it was ordinary, and he thought anybody could get a glimpse of enlightenment. Anybody. Everybody. No exception. No exception. You just have to know where to look. And everybody's looking, ego gets us looking into the world and thinking about things. So when things aren't going well for us, we look around at what's happening or at people and what they're doing, and we think about it. And he says, you're going in the wrong direction. You're getting more lost in the world of concepts. Turn around, come home. That's where you'll find your answers. It's in a feeling. Look for a feeling. Quiet in a feeling. The state of no thought and the feeling of love are coupled together like lovers. It's one of the most beautiful things I've heard anybody say. It's my favorite Sid quote, I think. When I let go of everything, there's a quiet underneath all of that. And in that, I can be aware of just the feeling of presence. And it's a beautiful feeling. And it's in that space that I do well in life. Change my parenting. I get upset with my kids and I drop into this quiet feeling and then just go find my kids and parent. And suddenly I was a really good parent. I wasn't parenting out of my conditioning. I stopped sounding like my dad when he was upset in parenting. Right? Parenting from the heart, as Jack Pransky says.
That was beautiful. Thank you. Nice.
Oh, you're welcome, Zoe. Hmm. So is that a painting behind you of the mountain reflected?
That is a picture of one of the red rock formations here in Sedona.
A photograph.
It's a photograph. Yeah.
Wow, it's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love reflections. I take reflections all the time.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks. As above, so below. Or as below, so above. Anybody else? You don't even have to think about what you're going to say. All you have to do is just come on and then just open your mouth. Whatever comes out will be perfect.
Okay.
Yes.
I was curious about something you said about, what was it, thought? A form and thought. It's like, could you say a bit more about thought?
You've done that for an hour.
Yeah. Well, most people, when they talk about thought or think about thought, are talking about thinking we can hear that's already been created.
Yeah.
And even most spiritual teaching, when they talk about thought, they're only talking about personal thought or thought that's already been created. So it's in the past because it's already been created. So most discussion about thought is about memory in the past.
It's more pure thought I'm interested in.
Yeah, pure thought is the energy that is generating what takes form. You could say a tree is a divine thought. You can say every thought and feeling you have is a divine thought. It's from pure, formless, into form. That's the whole movement and mystery of life, from stillness into movement. In the Gospel of Thomas, which is purportedly the earliest sayings of Jesus, one of the quotes attributed to Jesus, one of the earliest quotes is, he's saying God is a stillness and a movement. In Hinduism, they say Shiva is stillness. Shakti is the feminine principle, is the incarnation principle, the movement into form. So thought is both a stillness and a movement, and then it takes form. It's pure energy, nothing, moving into form and taking form, condensing. So Sid would say, if you have an insight, don't think that the temporary condensation is the truth. If you want to know the truth, the only truth that will set you free is when you touch that space before form. That truth is eternal. It's timeless. It's always present. That's the power. Sid would say it's divine thought or pure thought or the power of thought, the power of creation, the potential and capacity to create. That's pure thought. So if I'm having a problem, if I drop into this quiet, pure thought, I get new thinking. I get new and fresh rather than the old. That's what Debbie's story. She was in some old thinking, memory-based judgment and worry and fear, and she fell out of that. And then new and fresh got created that uplifted her spirits and surprised her. So Sid would say, look within, you're looking for new and fresh. But in order to find new and fresh, you have to let go of the old. So let go of all content, and then you get new and fresh content.
Can I add something?
Yeah, please.
Dicken, you say the right thing, because every time when Annette asked you about pure thoughts, it's actually happened to me when I'm in nature.
Yeah. And the great discovery is it can happen to you sitting on the couch. The great discovery is it's not caused by nature, it's caused by touching.
Yes, by touching, but because I feel that nature stopped me, like I was under a sky full of stars.
Yeah.
And I stopped that thinking.
Yeah.
And then the pure form took form, which would have been the new reality, which I wasn't into a bad state, like was Debbie talking about. But we could be anywhere. You're right, though.
That's the great discovery, is that it's always present within us.
Within us.
True nature is the nature of all of life.
I associated that feeling with the sky and the stars. So every time I look at the sky and the stars, I feel that feeling, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, so keep going out into nature, of course. And the great discovery is that what you're discovering in nature is always the kingdom within. It's always present. It's here. It's now. It's at hand.
It's the now. Well done.
It's right here.
Wonderful.
So I can be in a family crisis, be caught up in my thinking, in my ego, and being confused and upset. And then I can wake up. The feeling wakes me up, and I can drop into the unknown where I don't have a clue what to say or do. But I lighten up. And then I get new and fresh. That's the miracle. It's given freely as a gift. And I'm going, wow, even here I can access my true nature, the true nature of nature. Nature has a true nature. The trees have a true nature. They're connected to the same infinite field of life energy that's growing and nourishing them. Right? To this deeper intelligence that knows how to grow branches toward the light, move them, change them. That's an intelligence that the tree is connected to the same intelligence we are. We're connected to the same intelligence as the intelligence behind nature. We're humans who share a universal ground of being. Nature shares that same ground of being. In other words, everything is connected to this field of life energy. Everything.
Yeah.
Everything. Those are great questions.
We're like the three wise monkeys here.
So one question, no, not one question, one thought, not even that. During COVID, they have done so much isolation into people that they caused us to overthink everything. We were fearful of everything. The isolation they created, in a way, is good because people are waking up.
Yeah, a lot of people are dropping into quieter, more reflective states of mind
Yeah.
and discovering a nice life.
Yeah, that's when I started following Joe Dispenza. Thank you.
My wife left yesterday to drive down to visit and spend the weekend with our grandkids. And I have a medical procedure on Monday. I have to be here, and I had to have a COVID test at the hospital yesterday, and I have to isolate. And a friend of mine says, "Oh, too bad you have to isolate for a whole weekend." He said, "Oh, poor me. I get a chance to be in quiet and nice feeling." You take your home with you wherever you go. We're all turtles. We're all turtles. That's the great discovery. What we're looking for, we already have and are. We just have to wake up to it and relax into it. And there it is. We already have it. We're perfect as we are at this moment, but for all of our judgments and shoulds and drop out of that, what's still here, what's always here? Spirit, soul, presence, call it what you will. Doesn't matter. They're just words people make up. Get familiar with that. Get more intimate with that. Discover that over and again. Rediscover or remember. Remember. Remember means becoming part of the one member, becoming remembered, becoming one.
It's the opposite of dismember as well, isn't it?
Yes, it is the opposite of dismember. Concepts create an illusion of dismemberment. I'm not the same as you, I'm different.
Would you mind if I read a quick quote just to what you said?
Of course, yeah. Dave, jump in, man.
It's from a talk by a man named Ted Nottingham. He's a Christian pastor, but a very open-minded Christian pastor.
Mm-hmm.
This is on Spotify. It's called Deep Prayer, and it was just a bit that I listened to, and I heard him say this. This is a quote by a man named Thomas Merton, who's a current day Christian mystic. Again, no religious bias in this whatsoever. But
Thomas Merton was the one that turned me on to Christian mysticism.
Was he? Right. Well, this is a quote from Thomas Merton. The only true joy on earth is to escape from the prison of our own false self, and to be entered by love into union with the life that dwells and sings in the essence of every creature and at the core of our very own souls. I think that speaks so beautifully to, and Dicken has spoke so beautifully to that point today. And it's coming up to past, and I thank you deeply, Dicken, for your loving way for us, your loving way for this group, and your loving way for this world. It's such an important thing. I really, really appreciate it.
I've loved being with your group today.
It's a good group, the beautiful people.
Thank you, everybody, for having me. Dave and Jen throw a great party, so I'm glad I was invited.
Oh, well, I don't know if you've got time, Dicken, and I haven't even said this to everybody else yet, but what we do like to do, we run a community group every week. And when we remember, what we like to do is this space that I'm assuming that we're pretty much all in. I can't imagine anybody sitting there right now feeling all angry and pissed off about the world. When I look at the faces, I see pretty serene looking faces, the odd yawn. What we like to do is we like to do an 8-minute sitting quietly and sending love out to the world. If everybody's all right with that, I'm going to stop recording. I'm going to say goodnight for today. This is the end of day 1. We've got 2 more days. We're starting again tomorrow at 10 o'clock in the morning. And like I say, this is a via donation. This is a via donation retreat. And if you can't afford to donate, then we ask people to pay it forward with an act of kindness. So info@freedomthinking.co.uk is our PayPal. And if you want to do bank transfer, get in touch with info@freedomthinking.co.uk. Just email us. But I'm going to stop recording now. And just for 8 minutes, if we can all just channel the love that we've got into sending out positive love into the world. Perhaps there's somebody that we feel who's in our circle of friends or family that you feel needs some love sent their way. Please do. As Dicken's spoken about, we are all one. We do affect the whole. So if everybody's all right with that, I'll time 8 minutes and I'll stop recording now.